.com today.
Got an app idea? You're sitting on a gold mine, but stuck on how to bring it to life? Meet Dev Simplify, your superheroes for web and mobile app creation. Dev Simplify. DevSimplify.com. Just ask Coach Mike with Practice Planner Live.
You know, as a coach, technology isn't my strength, but Dev Simplify took my idea for Practice Planner Live and turned it into the top practice planning platform on the market. They transformed my non-technical vision into an incredible web and mobile app that coaches like me now can't live without.
See, you don't need to be a tech wizard. Your idea plus Dev Simplify's superhero software skills equals a big win, right, Mike?
You know, I had big plans for my app, and with Dev Simplify's help, it's now a thriving must-have platform for all coaches.
Dev Simplify, turning your brilliant ideas into amazing web and mobile. No tech skills required. Visit DevSimplify.com and let the magic begin. DevSimplify.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Tito Nani.
We have a new accident on southbound I-15 near the off-ramp at Park Lane in Davis County. That off-ramp is now closed. No trouble spots, though, if you're traveling either direction on I-80 and I-215. Also, no slowdowns heading north and southbound on Bangerter. Advanced Window Products, factory direct, affordable windows. Call today. They're on their way. Financing available. Save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com. In the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
Let's get a look at that weather forecast. Windy today, more wind tomorrow. The highs today around 95, but only in the 70s tomorrow with a slight chance of rain on Sunday. Right now it's 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And boy, did we have high winds at my place last night. Around 10 o'clock, it seemed like they continued throughout most of the evening. Last night, hundreds of people in southern Utah were forced to evacuate their homes after high winds pushed a fire to grow by hundreds of acres in just a few hours. The Forsyth Fire, and we'll talk about where that is, started around 5:30, burning 50 to 100 acres. But Holly, it's grown substantially since then.
Yeah, and it's really scary, right? I mean, if you're the person who is, you're hearing about a fire in your neighborhood and now you are getting an alert that you need to evacuate, that's not the time to prepare, right?
Right, yes. Right.
When they say evacuate, they mean get in the car and leave right now.
We've got with us KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson. Verl, thanks for joining us. And tell us what you know about the fire currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Forsyth Fire is affecting people in the Pine Valley area. It's about an hour north of St. George in Washington County. Officials have estimated they've evacuated about 400 to 500 people. I actually spoke with Carl Hunt with Utah Forestry, Fire, and State Land, and he told me this is how firefighters are doing so far.
Previously constructed fire breaks around that community allowed firefighters to engage the fire all night long, and as of this morning's report, no structures have been lost within that community.
So officials estimate there's about 400 to 450 buildings in this area, and the fire right now is burning about 500 to 1,000 acres. So really, it's incredible that so far none of these buildings have been damaged.
And by buildings, do you mean dwellings typically? I'm not familiar with the area. I know it's like you say, north of St. George, sort of south of Cedar City, in that area west of I-15, but I'm not familiar with the homes and dwellings that are in that area.
Yeah, so I would imagine most of them are homes. What officials have told me is about half of them are like homes to full-time residents. Others are kind of their part-time kind of vacationers. But about most of them, I would imagine, are homes in this area. There's also the Pine Valley campground area that they also had to evacuate. That's where some of the 400 to 500 people were at when they were evacuating the area last night.
Can I ask this question? Is the fire contained at all this morning?
As far as we know, the fire is not contained at all. There's no containment amount as far as firefighters have told me so far.
What do we know, Verl, about the crew that's there, the individuals that are fighting the fire? Do you know where they're from or what their role is besides fighting the fire?
I mean, we know it's an interagency cooperation. We've got state fire officials from the area. We've got the Bureau of Land Management that's also helping, as well as, since this is part of Dixie's National Forest, we do have Forest Service firefighters that are helping with this, at least attempt to control this blaze.
And people are being evacuated and being told to get out of there, but so far as you know, homes, dwellings, anything like that haven't been destroyed yet.
Yeah, that's correct.
But the fire's still growing.
Yeah, and as far as we know, officials have said right now it's just the Pine Valley area that's been affected with these mandatory evacuations. They're still in effect, so they're asking people if they're living in the area or heading towards it, just avoid it as they continue to fight this area, but no other areas at the moment are impacted.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. KSL News Radio's Virl Johansson.
We've also got with us KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson. Matt, are we going to get a break in the winds, or do you think that there's any relief in sight for the folks down there as it relates to the fire?
Right, I'd say the word here is eventually.
Okay.
It's going to take some time. We're dealing with more wind today, just as strong as yesterday. And the worst part is it might crank up even more tomorrow.
Wow.
We're waiting on a cold front that's off to our north and west. And whenever these things stall out, that means wind for Utah. So we're looking at gusts up to 30 to 40 today, statewide.
Wow.
The mountaintops of southern Utah, where most of our fires are burning right now, gusting to 50. And we may hold that same mark tomorrow afternoon. Start to see a reprieve on Sunday, and then next week, I think that's when we'll see something a little more substantial on the calm side of the scale. But for now, yeah, we're dealing with more weekend wind.
So that's concerning, especially I think southern Utah is the place where we see not a lot of moisture, right? So it's already been in drought conditions in a lot of places down there.
Yeah. The vegetation is almost completely cured because we had a really bad winter down there. Snowpack was almost non-existent.
Wow.
Worst we've seen in about 40 years. We did get some rain in late May, early June down there, but it wasn't enough to really stave off this early onset of fire activity.
So we've been listening to you for the last couple of days about this weekend. As I recall, even though yesterday, maybe the day before, were near record heat, isn't this weekend supposed to cool off pretty drastically? And I know the winds are the bad news, but I think the cooler weather would be potentially good news. I don't know how that relates to that part of the state, but up here it's supposed to cool down quite a bit, I think.
Yeah. We're going to cool off a solid 20 to 30 degrees, depending on where you measure it from. Yesterday it was 100, 70s on Sundays, a 30-degree drop. But, this cooler air that's moving in, yes, at the cost of wind, but it will help firefighters a bit because that helps your humidity recover at night. And yeah, it's not raining, but you increase the amount of moisture that's in the air, and that actually helps the fire lay down at night. So it's not going to burn as hot nor as ferociously, or I should say quickly. And so silver linings, the cooler weather is going to help. We'd love raindrops on top of it, right? But as far as getting through this wind and then receiving the cooler weather, that's going to help a little bit. But the ideal would be maybe a push of monsoon. Obviously, that then brings flooding, but...
I've never understood why cooler weather helps. You just explained it, because it brings more moisture in. Because I always thought, firefighters are always sort of relieved when it really cools down. I thought, well, so what does that have to do with it? But it brings more moisture into the air.
Yep, it can, yeah.
Oh, that's that. I never thought about that.
Thanks for keeping
Learn
us
something
updated.
new every day.
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah, thanks for keeping us updated. I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on this all weekend.
Yeah, interesting. And it is fire season. It is. We are going to get used to this now for the next little while. It seems to come a little bit earlier every year, where we used to think of August, September as being fire season. Here we're in June, and we've got several fires, I think, going right now.
Yeah, we've seen warnings, I think, for the last several weeks that this could be at least a bad fire year, and it looks like it's starting off that way.
Yeah.
All right, that was KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson joining us in studio. Holly, you're not going down to the Pine Valley area, I suppose, this weekend to do any camping or fishing?
I am not. But
it's always concerning when we have to speak about evacuations, and we have to speak about dwellings and buildings, and I know Virl was talking about, it's an area that's not densely populated, but it's an area that there are apparently a lot of summer homes, a lot of really 365-day-a-year homes down there. It's a beautiful area. It's just north of the Red Cliffs area, as I recall, almost smack dab in the middle of where you draw a line between St. George and Cedar City, and it's I've only been through there a little bit on bicycling and whatnot. But it's just a beautiful part of the state. But it's also a tinderbox.
Right. Look, beready.utah.gov actually has advice for people who need to evacuate during wildfires. And of course, one of the things, as you might imagine, is we mentioned this at the very top of the hour. You can't wait until an evacuation order comes to start getting ready, right? So one of the things that Verl mentioned is that none of the structures have been lost, at least not to this point, and that they had created some fire breaks around those structures. So that's one of the pieces of advice that Be Ready Utah has, is that you create this barrier around your home. You don't have overhanging trees. You don't let your gutters fill with dry leaves, right? That you have some kind of a barrier. But also, when you evacuate, you can't leave the hose running.
Yeah, right. And I'm looking at some of the things they tell you to do, and it's listed on here several times. Make sure you've got gas in your car. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
You have to evacuate.
Yeah.
That's no time to be thinking, oh man, I don't know if I can get very far here without going somewhere. And there's always a tendency, and I don't know what I would do if the same would happen to me, of when they say evacuate, thinking, I'm not going to evacuate. I can
stick it out.
I'm going to go down with the ship. Well, that's usually the
take your
worst
pets
thing
with you.
you can do. Right. When we come back after the break, Utah House Speaker Mike Schultz and House Minority Leader Angela Romero have issued a joint letter demanding that a Utah judge resign after comments he made during a sentencing hearing. More details after the break.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Attention RVers! In 57 years, Motorsportsland has never had a sale like this before. We've got over 100 new models coming in and our lots are already almost full. We've got to clear out inventory fast, so we've selected over 100 new travel trailers, fifth wheels, and toy haulers to sell to you at or below dealer cost. Like our 2024 Encore Venue off-road travel trailer, MSRP at $30,000, normally priced at $25,000, dealer cost at $22,400, and this week only priced to you for below $17,000 with amazing financing options. Or our 2024 28-foot Stealth toy hauler fifth wheel, MSRP at $99,330, normally priced at $83,500, this week only $67,743. Save more than ever before on your dream RV, but these deals are disappearing quick, so visit a Motorsportsland RV Center today.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
Selling or buying a home, you're losing a lot of money if you're not using the BankBuster loan. This is Rod with the SaveRight Realtor team at RealtyPath. Nothing compares to the BankBuster loan. Home sellers, you get a quicker sale and a higher net price. How? The buyer of your home gets a rate as low as 4.75% with a payment that saves them hundreds every month. The ultra-low BankBuster rate is not a seller concession that comes out of your pocket. It's all thanks to our affiliate lender, SaveRight Mortgage, and their BankBuster loan. Hire the SaveRight Realtors when you sell or buy a home, and you automatically get a preferred lender and a BankBuster loan. Buyers, you can start with a rate in the ones. Don't lose tens of thousands of your hard-earned money. Sell and buy your home with a BankBuster loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
The new Inside Sources.
Both Republican and Democratic House leaders here in Utah are asking for a Utah judge to resign. The calls came after comments made by the judge during a sentencing. KSL TV's Daniel Woodruff has been following the story. Let's hear more from him on the latest developments.
The more I talk about it, the more it upsets me.
House Speaker Mike Schultz isn't happy with Judge Don Torgerson, who last month sentenced 22-year-old Aiden Hoffman in Grand County for 2 felonies. Court documents say Hoffman possessed and distributed multiple images of children being raped and sexually abused. At the sentencing, Torgerson decided Hoffman would serve no additional time behind bars and pay no fine, while being put on probation for 4 years. Schultz called that a slap on the wrist.
But what was really concerning to me was the comments that this judge made during the sentencing hearing.
He's referring to what Torgerson said to Hoffman about the nearly 4 months he had already spent in jail.
112 days is a lot of jail time. It's a lot of jail time for someone your age who comes from some level of privilege.
The judge also said this after viewing 2 videos Hoffman possessed showing children being raped and abused.
I did defense work. I've seen worse.
That's not okay. That's horrific. Even if the judge had seen worse, you don't say that in the court. You don't say that in front of the defendant.
Schultz says Torgerson should have apologized. Instead, the court put out a statement defending the judge and criticizing KSL's reporting. The court claimed the plea agreement spared Hoffman from more time behind bars, but Schultz points out that's not what it said. It gave the prosecutor the right to argue for prison, which he did.
And so, you add all those things together and we have a problem here.
Schultz is not alone in feeling this way. The top Democrat in the House, Minority Leader Angela Romero, is also calling for Torgerson to step down and for the judiciary to investigate. In a joint letter, she and Schultz call the judge's comments flat out unacceptable, showing an alarming lack of judgment.
I just felt like it was an important message for us to send to that judge, to think about the impact it has on victims of sexual assault, child sex abuse.
But Torgerson remains on the bench. The House Speaker is now putting together a group of lawmakers to consider the next steps.
And to make a recommendation to our body as to what they see fit.
If he doesn't resign.
If he doesn't resign. Certainly impeachment is always an option. I don't know that that's the right way forward, but everything's on the table.
Look, this is one of the just really disturbing comments from a judge. My response to hear, well, I've viewed videos of child rape and I've seen worse. Wow. I agree with Speaker Mike Schultz. That's just horrific.
Yeah, it is a little tough. I think that the judge, and if I were to defend him, I'm not necessarily doing that because I do think there were some problematic comments. But, what he's saying is, look, 22 years old, I've been doing this for a long time. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But these images, I will tell you, Holly, are the worst things you'll ever see. I mean,
Right.
I've had to.
I don't wanna see
I've had to
any.
view them, and you'll never get out of your head. So I think that was a little odd. But the judge was a defense attorney for years and years. We're talking about the sort of the southeast part of the state. He's now a 7th district judge. That covers Grand, which is Moab, Carbon, Price area, Emory, and San Juan County, sort of that part of the state down there. And there are only 3 judges down there. They travel a lot. This is a 22-year-old. And I'll say this about child pornography cases, and I've said this before. They're prosecuted a little bit like drug cases in this respect. Possession of the images, like possession of drugs, is a serious crime, but distribution is much more serious. And then, of course, the production. If you're actually creating these images or producing drugs, it's more serious. I was a little bit surprised that this kid had pled guilty to distributing, but these people do. They share files. They go back and forth. But distributing makes it a little more serious. Had it not been for the distribution, I would have thought, just in my own experience, that 112 days was about average. I mean, really, believe it or not, it's
Wow.
just it's the amount of time people serve for this type of crime.
Wow.
22-year-old with no prior record. I mean, it's the same thing. I do think it was odd that the judge made the comment about privilege.
112 days is a lot of jail time. It's a lot of jail time for someone your age who comes from some level of privilege.
Right. I mean, does that mean this kid comes from a rich family? I mean, he's not native to Utah. He's actually from Maine, and he is facing similar charges in Maine. So he will be facing those a little bit later this summer. But I mean, gosh, that does not give me a whole lot of level of confidence in this particular judge, to be honest.
Yeah, and I asked you earlier before we started, because I was surprised that both Republicans and Democrats jumped on board, the House Minority Leader Angela Romero, but she does have a history of being involved in children's issues and children's rights.
She does.
So I think she's got a little bit more of a stake in the game than some of our legislators.
I would not be surprised to see all 104 legislators in the Utah legislature say this is not okay, right? I mean, this to me does not seem like a partisan issue. This seems like, a very concerning issue. I think raping a child and distributing images of that has got to be just way up there with horrific crimes, right? And I always think about the victims in these situations. I think that is just really horrendous. They'll live with it for their entire lives. And there's, I don't know. I think the judge, I agree with Schultz that this is just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, and I've heard, having done these cases, people say, well, I didn't actually touch anyone. I didn't actually hurt anyone. It's a victimless crime. And then judges climb down their throat on that. They're like, victimless crime, don't you realize what happened when these images were created?
Right.
And then they tend to re-victimize the victims every time they're displayed, every time they're shown.
Right.
I mean, I understand. The young man did apologize for his actions during the May 20th hearing.
There's no justification for what I did. I'm not minimizing what I did. I'm not justifying it. And I promise to be better.
Yeah, and you really can't say anything but that at a sentencing on something like this, because there is no justification. I mean, no one forced you to look at those images, and I've often talked to clients who sort of go down this rabbit hole about how you get there, because I don't understand. Well, I do now that I've learned, but how you go from looking at certain images to it gets worse and worse and worse, and pretty soon you're intrigued by something that to you and I and to everyone we know, even to these people, when you talk to them, you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, it was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen, but I couldn't get away from it.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll tell you something else, Holly. I've had a lot of clients charged with these type of crimes, and it's an addiction. They'll go to jail, they'll go to prison, they'll come out, and they'll do it again.
Well, that's the problem, right? And one of my concerns to hear Hoffman say, well, I promise not to do it again. Well, there's got to be a lot more than just a promise.
Yeah, and if you said, like you said earlier, he's got some issues in Maine, so
Yeah.
he already
Right.
told the judge, I promise not to do this again.
Right. So look, this process is got some political involvement, right? Because now you have Mike Schultz, you've got Minority Leader Angela Romero talking to other members of the legislature, and they're exploring all their options up to and including impeachment possibly of this judge.
Yeah, and they've written a letter June 19th, yesterday, to the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court asking the judiciary to take a look at this. In other words, because the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court could act fairly quickly, and if he doesn't, it seems to be some veiled remarks in here that maybe we'll take it on ourselves because they can start impeachment proceedings. They're very rare. I mean, I don't know that I remember an impeachment of a judge in Utah, at least.
I think many people, if that were, not many because that hasn't happened often, but if that were the case, then people would start talking about it's resign or this.
Right, yes, and maybe that's where they're going. But they did write a letter to the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court saying the judiciary needs to take a look at this, and they urge the judiciary to take appropriate action, including perhaps taking him off the bench. And they're concerned about two things. One, the relative leniency of the sentence, and two, the comments that the judge made about,
the comments.
Hey, you come from some level of privilege or that type of thing. When we come back after the break, let's go back up to what we really started this week with, and that is this No Kings organization and this No Kings rally that occurred this weekend in Salt Lake. The national organization has taken some issues with the way the Salt Lake branch has dealt with it. We'll talk about that after the break.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour. Hundreds of homes in southern Utah have been evacuated as crews battle the Forsyth fire. A good portion of the state is facing dangerous fire conditions. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson continues our coverage.
The National Weather Service says the dangerous fire conditions are going to last through the weekend, with wind gusts today around the state ranging from 40 to 50 miles per hour. Add in the severe lack of humidity, any little spark can take off. It doesn't help that the wind kept blowing through the night, and the danger goes down a bit with cooler temperatures here in northern Utah on Saturday and Sunday, but that fire danger will remain high in place in southern Utah. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's been another incident involving threats against a politician. ABC's Lionel Moise says this time it happened to a congressman from Ohio.
A disturbing encounter on the road amid a disturbing increase in political violence nationwide.
You have an issue? Take it to our office. You want to run me off the road? That's a different story.
Ohio Congressman Max Miller, who is Jewish, says a man tried to run him off the road waving a Palestinian flag.
This comes after 2 Minnesota lawmakers were shot in their homes. One of them was killed. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now up 120 points. That's 0.3%. We're at 42,293. Coming up, a cooler weekend on the way after today, anyway. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Chatting today with Debbie about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Now, Debbie, you had a huge project. How did it go?
My experience was wonderful. I worked with Taylor, and if he was my son, I'd be very proud.
That's quite the endorsement. What were the details of your project?
I had 2 bathrooms done, a new kitchen, and a pretty large flooring project.
And did they get it done in the time frame you were expecting?
Well, it took 2 weeks because it was a big job.
Did the quality of work meet your expectations?
Yes, it was excellent.
Would you recommend 3-Day Kitchen and Bath to someone that was deliberating on redoing their kitchen or bathroom?
I would, and I have already.
Sounds like you'd give them a 5-star rating.
I did.
There you have it. Another 3-Day Kitchen and Bath satisfied customer. Request your in-home consultation today at 877-229-8829 or online at 3daykitchen.com.
It's about time at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
The wait is almost over. After 2 years of renovation, the perfect downtown lunch spot is now almost open. The Garden Restaurant opens on June 30th. The Garden Restaurant offers a beautifully designed space and deliciously fresh menu. It's close to everything downtown next to the Temple Square block. If you need something quick and on the go, or to meet a client, friend, or place to relax, the Garden Restaurant offers healthy options like handcrafted sandwiches, soups, unique salads, plus traditional favorites like homemade pot pies and the famous Lion House rolls. The Garden's new look and tasty menu offers something for everyone, featuring dine-in, patio seating, lobby seating, and grab-and-go or quick online ordering. Visit the Garden today. Reimagine space with remarkable taste. Easy street access on the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Open weekdays 11 to 3. Check out the menu at thegardenslc.com. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant, opening next week, June 30th. See you there.
Hey, Ryan, you remember that trip we took in our tent trailer down to Southern California?
Oh, that was the best.
Making memories with Paris RV. Hook up to the 2025 Forest River Rockwood 16 OTG for only $9,195 or $148 per month, 0 down. Or the 2025 Highland Ridge Open Range 177 BH for only $14,995 or $171 per month, 0 down. Or the 2026 Coachman RV Catalina Summit Series 7 134 BHX for only $14,995 or $171 per month, 0 down.
Take your family out RVing with Paris RV.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Tito Nani.
Well, that accident on southbound I-15 at Park Lane in Farmington is still causing some delays. It's off to the right shoulder, and it looks to be stretching traffic about 2 miles back towards Kaysville. Also, a new accident on southbound SR36 Main Street in Tooele. This looks to be at the intersection at 1280 North. That looks to be causing some backup towards 20th North. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than last year, even though we don't need to. Let's fix that. Water 1 day less each week. In the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
Hot again today, a high of 95. Then a cold front, or a cool front, I should say, moves in. Highs will be around 77 tomorrow, 72 on Sunday. Right now it's 82 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
The No Kings National Organization 5051 has cut its ties with the Salt Lake branch after the fatal shooting that killed an innocent bystander, Afa Alu, this past weekend. Here's KSL News Radio's Claire Scott.
Organization wrote that it has a strict no weapons policy. The peacekeeper who volunteered with 5051 to work as security for the rally was the one who fired shots, hitting Afa Alu, an innocent bystander. The organization says the Salt Lake City's branch disregarded their values and therefore they are no longer affiliated. The local branch has not said if they knew peacekeepers would have weapons.
So one of the things that strikes me with this is we've talked, every day it seems like it's been almost a week now, and every day we are learning something new, right? And at first it was, we don't know who fired the shots. We think it was this young guy, Arturo Gamboa, and then it was a peacekeeper, and then people were saying, well, what if it is a peacekeeper? We don't really know. But now this national organization has cut ties, and they've just said, look, we have a strict no weapons policy, so we can't be associated with the Salt Lake branch anymore.
Right, it's really interesting how the wave has changed, because even Salt Lake City, to some extent, was saying, well, these people were assisting in protecting the public, and
right.
These peacekeepers, they sort of gave them the benefit of the doubt. But as we've learned more and more, Salt Lake City has distanced itself from the peacekeepers and said, hey, we didn't invite them, we didn't know that they were there. The city police department said, we had everything under control, we didn't need them. And now this national organization is doing the same thing. You have to wonder, given an event of that size, and we did talk to the former chief of police of Salt Lake City earlier this week, Chris Burbank, who said Salt Lake City's got a great police force. And I can attest to that myself, working at the police academy. There wasn't any reason, in my opinion, and I wasn't there, so I don't know what the crowd was like, but there didn't seem to be any reason to have this peacekeeping group there. I mean, to me, if I was an organizer, I'd say, let's have a peacekeeping group. Every one of you will have a radio and a bright yellow vest, and if
Right.
you see something, you'll be on the police channel, and you'll say, okay, there's a fight over here on First South or something like
Right,
that.
right.
But taking a gun
Right.
and carrying a gun, it seemed like, it just seemed, from a legal perspective, that was destined to, that's a problem you're almost inviting.
Yeah, except that in Utah, right, we know that we have a very favorable gun owner laws, right?
Sure.
So you can open carry, you can conceal carry without a permit if you're over 21. So, I mean, I think one of the questions we asked Chief Burbank was, were people open carrying or conceal carrying? And he said, absolutely, they would have been, right? And to just be aware, right, when you're going into big crowds and things like that. But yeah, I agree. The police presence was there. In fact, we talked to them before. Last Friday, we talked to them and said, what are your plans for this protest? And they were going to be aware. They wanted to be a large presence, but not one that was intimidating, one that was there to help members of the public feel like they were safe.
Right. And I absolutely understand Utah and its open carry and whatnot. But as it relates, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Holly, for 1 minute, but we're talking about this peacekeeping group
That's right.
who were certainly allowed legally to participate
Right.
and open carry. But I don't know that they were invited to engage or to participate or to draw their weapon. I mean, there's no reason to open carry if you're not gonna have it there. But I think that's what the concern was, is that we didn't need this group carrying weapons, even though they had the absolute legal right to do that, to keep the peace, because then it seems like they're super police or they're extra police officers or there's something like that really didn't need to happen. And we talked. And we haven't talked a lot, but we did talk to one of our state legislators about this Afa Alu.
We did, Representative Jake Fetisimanu.
You're right. And this victim, who we haven't been able to talk about as much as we probably could have, was just this incredible community activist.
Right.
I mean, he was a fashion designer, very active in the Polynesian community, and a beautiful family. By all accounts, the last person you would expect to be hurt at an event like this.
Right.
He was there, and these peacekeepers were there to protect that very type of person and to make sure nothing happened to him.
That's right.
And there wasn't it didn't seem like there was enough going on there that would have justified what happened here. I mean, I guess the DAs are going to have to sort that out. But you look at what's going on. It seems to be a peaceful protest. I don't even know that there were any arrests, except as it relates to this shooting. But it didn't seem like the crowd was
right. I mean, exactly, it was really peaceful until it wasn't. Right. So we know that it has taken some time. There has been a holiday and a weekend and things, but today detectives are going to present their initial findings to the homicide team at the Salt Lake County DA's office. Tell me from the legal perspective, like, what does that mean and what can we expect after that happens?
Yeah, so it's called a screening process, and I worked at the DA's office for 8 years. And so what happens is this. An individual was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail Saturday night. He wasn't one of the peacekeepers. In fact, he was just there, but he had an open carry rifle. He was taken into custody and booked in the Salt Lake County Jail on probable cause for murder. And that was just a statement by a police officer. They do their investigation, and it's taken some time because really the law says you got to do it within 3 or 4 days. And it's been now today's day.
A few more.
Day 7 since Saturday, day 6, I guess. And he's still in custody. The DA's office filed something yesterday asking for an extra 3 days to decide what they want to do. The judge granted that. So technically now the DAs have until Monday at 5 to decide what to do here. You're right. There have been a Saturday, a Sunday, a holiday or two, depending on and another weekend coming up.
Right.
So the DA's office have that long. But a man is in custody, and he's been in custody since Saturday with no bail and no charges against him. So I haven't answered the question yet. So the screening process is this. The police come in. They've got their case together. They've got their witnesses. They've got their statements. They've got the medical examiner report, whatever else they need. And they sit down with a prosecuting attorney, and they say, okay, look, here's what we know about this case. And then it's really a legal analysis. The police do the factual work. Here's the facts. And the DA or whoever's doing the screening looks at the law and says, okay, given those facts, what crime was committed? What can I prove here? And that's what they look at. So they're going to be having a screening today, but the judge has given the DAs until Monday to decide what to do. So the screening might result in, hey, we've got everything. Let's have a meeting Monday and decide what to charge, if anything, to this individual. Right.
So that actually helps a lot. I didn't understand the process that clearly. So a follow-up question: if they present the evidence, is it the DA, the DA's office that decides this is the crime we could charge this person with, or will the police suggest that there's a specific thing that he could be charged with?
Both. The police will make their suggestion. They'll say, here's what we think happened. But the ultimate decision is absolutely the DA's. And in Utah, we do things different than some states. Some states they'd present this to a grand jury. They'd say, okay, you 25 people, what do you think? In Utah, we take it to a prosecutor, and then if they decide that there's enough evidence to charge, they set a preliminary hearing where a judge decides, like what a grand jury would do in the federal case. Is there enough evidence to go to trial? So that screening process will happen today, maybe happening now. Who knows when it's scheduled for? And then the DAs have, according to the order of the judge, until Monday at 5 to do something. Otherwise, this individual who's currently being held on murder charges will be released. Now, I would also say this, and I know we're kind of running out of time here, but they may also be looking at what, if anything, to do with respect to the peacekeeper. If they decide we're not going to charge this guy, we may look at charges against someone else.
Okay. Well, in an era of increasing tensions, many people of different religious backgrounds recently came together to find a way forward. Doug Wilkes, the executive editor of the Deseret News, will join us with more insight coming up next.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down, and if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
Mom, it almost happened again.
What almost happened, Jason?
A customer almost didn't choose us because he was shocked our prices were so low.
Oh, no. What did you tell him?
I told him I could charge him more if he wanted me to, or he could spend the savings on something awesome.
Well, that's amazing. What did he say?
He decided to save thousands of dollars and get a whole house of amazing windows with Window World.
Call 281-8111.
Window World. Simply the best.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Myth. You might have heard that you need to spend a fortune these days to get a powerful computer. Correction. At PC Laptops, we wanted to prove that wrong. So here's the most amazing deal that we've ever done at PC Laptops for you in over 30 years. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Take one home today. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $9.99, PCLaptops.com.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come celebrate summer in Logan. From nonstop festivals to super close outdoor adventures to the most charming historic downtown and great restaurants, it's all right here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I don't know why everyone who lives in Salt Lake thinks it takes 3 hours to get to Logan, but unless you're dragging a handcart, it will only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just get in your car and get up here. You know we're Utah's heart of the arts. This week, live performances of Matilda the Musical, the professional Olyark Repertory Theater's inspiring musical Bright Star, plus they open Sherlock Holmes, the final adventure. Wait, the swashbuckling Broadway hit The Scarlet Pimpernel hits the stage too. Good night! Free concerts every weekday at noon in the Tabernacle and free concerts and movies at the Outdoor Plaza. Mark your calendars for the Cache Valley Cruise-In Classic Car Show 4th of July weekend and a packed schedule of nonstop fun all summer long. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by Rain and this station. And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So we teased just before the break that we know globally there's increasing tensions. We see that on the news every single day. We see Iraq and Iran. We see Israel and Gaza. We see Ukraine and Russia, right? But we also see it in increasing religious opposition. And we have in studio with us Doug Wilkes, the executive editor of the Deseret News, who was just in Oxford, England, meeting with other religious leaders, talking about ways forward. So can you share a little bit with us about those meetings?
Sure. Thank you, Holly. But first to you and Greg, congratulations on the show. To your audience, I know you both as true insiders, so it's exciting.
Thank you.
You get this warm-up, and then we'll get to the legislative session
That's right.
in January, and it'll be full speed ahead. But truly, Oxford was interesting. This was strategies for integrating top-down and bottom-up approaches, multi-faith partnerships, which is a big title. But what it meant is there was about 30 people there trying to figure out how do we live together, Christians, Muslims, and those of the Jewish faith. I was there with rabbis, Jewish rabbis, and imams from around the globe, and Christians, including evangelicals, and Pastor Bob Roberts, who's the big evangelical from Texas, who has told me that he's lost some of his congregation because of his efforts to kind of reach across to different faiths to try and build coalitions. Most interesting was we went through really difficult situations after October 7th, and Imam Idris Abdul Zahir and Rabbi Eli Friedman are both in Philadelphia, and they were both there, and they talked about how difficult that was. They had developed a relationship, then October 7th happened, and then there were some unfortunate tweets from their various, I hate to say sides, but from their various interests, their various congregations. And that hurt feelings. It made them wonder if they could work together, but they did, and they ended up in a Washington conference together, brought together by a Christian, and they were able to kind of talk through it. So on the third day of this conference, of course, Israel then sent missiles over into Iran, and I woke up that morning and I thought, okay, what's this going to be today? And we went there and we talked about it. And one of the things that was done is we had a moment of silence, but it wasn't a moment of silence. It was a moment of prayer, and everyone in the room was to pray how they pray, however they observe for the loss of life and moving forward. And then at lunch, I was there with both of them, and we were talking. I said, look, how are you able to sit here and have lunch? Yeah. What can we do? And it was kind of a remarkable look into that. Now, I wasn't there as a religious leader. I was there as media and kind of giving a media perspective from my position as executive editor. But it was clearly fascinating. And Oxford founded on religion. We went to to Christ Church College, and there's, every college has a cathedral, and the overlay of religion in such a academically rigorous place was kind of fascinating.
So what was the mood that day between these two groups? I mean, and did you get the sense? Just listening to you, Doug, I'm sort of thinking maybe they should mediate the conflict.
Right.
Maybe that might be a better way to do it than what's happening with their political leaders.
Well, you have to be willing to find the common ground. And what is the common ground? It's, there's something greater than ourselves, right? They're looking to a God. They're looking to trying to make mankind better. And so if you start at that place, then you can start to have a conversation. And it's really about trying to understand what people are trying to do. I mean, at the end of the day, you do break and go to lunch because we all go to lunch. And can you eat lunch with someone who's maybe your enemy? Well, of course you can. And there's models for that. So you just sort of don't hone in on, well, you killed my brother.
Right.
Okay, that happens. But if you look back, the earth has been a place of war since it began. Yeah. So somehow we've had to navigate it ever since man began walking the earth. And given that overlay, you said, okay, there are solutions forward. What are they? And this up and down, which means you look up to see what can government and institutions do, and you look down and say, what can each of us do as a person? And that's why it was so fascinating. And I really appreciated the invitation to participate.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. And, it's an issue that I really care about, this peace building and ratcheting down contention. We've seen political violence in a way just this last week in new ways, right, going after state lawmakers in Minnesota. Okay, I'm going to pivot just a little bit. The Deseret News just had a birthday.
Yes, we did.
175 years, which is really remarkable. We're still around.
We don't look a day over 30, but yeah, it's been 175.
So can you talk to us a little bit about the state of the Deseret News, but how that relates overall to the state of media, which has changed dramatically in the last decade or two?
The key is we want to be relevant. We want to be relevant locally. We want to be relevant in the West and be a voice of the West. And we want to be able to help lead and take part in conversations nationally, and in some cases internationally, as we just did in Oxford. The state of media is, people will say it's biased, but what it is people looking for audience. So Fox News looks for an audience, CNN looks for an audience. What can you offer that differentiates your content? So what the Deseret News wants to do and has been trying to do is be credible and trustworthy in the local spaces, work with our partners at KSL and KSL.com to have this news organization that can really cover Utah the way it needs to, cover the West the way it needs to, and be a watchdog for family, be a watchdog for religion and religious liberty and the ability to bring faith into the public square, really the principles of the First Amendment, and do that in a relevant, interesting, informative way. So I feel very strongly about the role and the mission of the Deseret News, and I think it has a really important place in the media landscape.
Yeah, and I can remember growing up, and even as a young adult, reading the Trib in the morning and the D News in the afternoon, and just it seems like that part of media is gone. I mean, I love the print, I love the newspaper, I love to just sit down and open it up, and I always knew where the weather page was. I always knew where the sports page, and section B was the local. You know what I mean? And so I mean, without regard to how those two organizations get along, because they seem to get along incredibly well, what do you see as the future for what was started out as the print media?
Well, I mean, I've been at this for quite a long time. My favorite description of myself was newspaper man, right? And that's not it anymore. Come home with ink on my
right.
cuffs. And,
we don't have ink anymore.
Well, you go to low rub ink, and we thought that was the big innovation, but no. You might have a few 100,000 readers with a print newspaper, and that's important, and that's good for Utah. And we look covering Utah, and you'd be in every community. Well, now we have millions of readers every month, and the reach is just so vastly significant. And you can do it in a more cost-effective way because printing costs are very significant. So, I don't spend a lot of time lamenting. We do publish two print newspapers a week, and we publish a digest. And we took the bold step of starting Deseret Magazine, which is 10 times a year and lets us go very in-depth with really important topics. Those things signal that the Deseret News is trying to be relevant in many different places. Our competition, what's our competition? Well, our competition is everything that you're doing when you go home at night or come in the morning. It's Netflix, it's Hulu.
Right.
It's not just, and it's every national brand that you're getting, because you don't have to get the New York Times on your doorstep. You can just get an electronic version, the Wall Street Journal,
right,
and the Seattle Times if you're from Seattle, or San Francisco Chronicle. I mean,
Yep.
every space. And I myself do that. I survey all of that information. So you have so much coming at you. We want people to say, well, I wonder what the Deseret News is saying about that today. And so that's what we're trying to do.
So we only have a few seconds, actually. Do you think that we're as divided as a country as everybody says we are, or even as a world, right? You teased that in several ways. Just a few seconds.
I think we are. The search for audience means you divide and you choose a lane to try and be relevant in the lane. So this kind of mass media doesn't really exist, right? We don't all watch the same TV show at the same time. We don't even watch the same. Like, I can listen to clips of your show. Like,
Right.
if I can't listen for 2 or 3 hours in the morning, I know, oh, Holly and Greg are talking with this person. I want to hear what they have to say. Same with KSL Television. So. Yeah, we are divided on many areas where everyone's trying to figure out whether how the involvement of America in terms of the Israeli-Iran conflict, and that's really not partisan. It's really, wow, how do we go forward as a country? Those are too big a topic.
Yeah, very big. Wish we had more time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you both.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Verl Johansson. KSL's top local story this hour. Several fires have sparked across the state, one of them sending police on an emu rescue mission. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
In Tooele, officers were sent in to wrangle a group of emus when a fire started near their field. In a video sent to KSL, I saw several officers chasing after the animals, leashing them and tugging them to safety. That fire burned 4 outbuildings but harmed no emus. There have been 9 fires started in the last 24 hours, most of these in central and northern Utah.
The largest fires currently burning are all in southern Utah, including the France Canyon fire close to Bryce Canyon National Park. Right now, that fire is about 5% contained. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. We're now hearing from a juror who voted to acquit Karen Reed in her retrial.
A juror explaining why she voted to acquit Karen Reed of that second-degree murder charge for allegedly ramming her SUV into John O'Keefe during a blizzard in 2022.
A collision did not occur. I can't assess the motive to this sloppy police investigation.
And the toughest moment for her? Hearing the derogatory text messages about Reed sent by lead homicide investigator Michael Proctor just hours after he got the case.
That's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 109 points, the S&P down 3, the NASDAQ down 73. And coming up, temperatures are looking to drop 20 degrees this weekend. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/Drug Facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
We got some pretty significant slowdowns at the moment on southbound I-15, stretching between 7200 South and Midvale and up to 106 South and Sandy. Looks like crews are on the scene there. Looks to be cleaning up some debris on the highway. And also appears that we have some major slowdowns on northbound I-215, starting around 7th North and extending up to 1700 North in Rose Park. The future is here. Don't have internet stuck in the past. Quantum Fiber Internet offers next-level speeds on a reliable fiber network. Learn more at quantumfiber.com. Service in select locations only. In the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
Today's looking like another windy day with a high of 95 degrees. Tomorrow's high drops to 77 before we fall even further to 72 on Sunday. Right now, sunny skies and 86 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Verl Johansson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
A new poll released in the Deseret News shows Governor Cox seeing a boost in his approval. And I have to say, Holly, if he's getting a boost, he must have had a dip. And I can't think. I guess I'm naive, but it seems like Cox has sort of been rolling along, pretty well received, and so I don't know what would have been his dip.
The Utah legislative session, that was the dip.
Oh.
Right? People who wanted him to veto bills that he didn't, and people who wanted him to speak out when he supported. I mean, so the Utah legislative session was, I don't know. I thought it was a little more acrimonious than normal this year, but we actually are lucky to have in studio with us Brigham Tomko, who wrote about this poll for the Deseret News. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so what do you see as you looked at these poll numbers? What do you see as the boost behind this increase for Governor Cox? And tell us what the numbers are.
Absolutely. So you guys talked about a dip, and what that can be attributed to is a fluctuation in support among Democratic voters in the state of Utah. So in our poll that we conducted the first half of April, Governor Cox had a 52% approval rating, and that experienced a 4% uptick here in our poll conducted in the second half of May. So he's at 56% among all Utah voters. And that really boils down to what we saw as a 10-point increase in support among Democrats from April to May, from 28% support in that prior poll to 37% of support in this most recent poll that we did.
That's so interesting.
It seems that he had to have taken a dip with Democrats and maybe some independents, Brigham, when last year he came out more in support of Trump than some people had expected, because he had previously made some statements about we need to get along better, we don't need the dialogue, and I think a lot of Democrats felt that he was saying maybe Trump's being a little more divisive than he needs to be. But boy, he came out much more in favor, and I suppose that's when he would have dipped with the Democrats. But apparently they've now overlooked that, or they've forgiven him, or moving on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to some degree. But what we saw is that over the first few years of Governor Cox's first term, he was broadly popular among many Democrats in the state of Utah. There were stories like in Time magazine titled "The Red State Governor Who's Not Afraid to Be Woke." He kind of made it his identity to reach across the aisle in a really major way. But what we saw is a consistent trend starting in the 2024 election cycle, where Governor Cox made very explicit overtures to his right, especially after the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt against President Trump, then candidate Trump, where Governor Cox endorsed the president, kind of did a 180 on the then candidate for the Republican nomination. And what we have seen since then is Governor Cox's approval rating, which had been at a steady 63, 64% in the state, fell 10 percentage points. And it's kind of leveled off since that time.
Wow. So tell me what you're seeing about approval rating among Republicans in the state of Utah.
See, this is the reason it's pretty easy to isolate it to Democratic support, because support among Republicans has hovered around 66 or 68% in every poll we've done for a few years now.
That's
so
so interesting.
That hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
That's a super majority still, right? And I think if you look at social media, you would think he's just on the outs with Republicans, but the data doesn't show that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we may have seen a real-life reaffirmation of that during the GOP chair's race a month or two ago, where Governor Cox's endorsed candidate, Rob Axson, was able to trounce Phil Lyman, Cox's former gubernatorial challenger, among the party's most engaged members, right, at a Utah Republican Party convention.
So let me go back to you, Holly, a little bit, and maybe Brigham can chime in on this. But what did happen at the legislative session? I mean, were Democrats and Republicans upset with some of the things that he did or didn't do in terms of vetoes and support of the legislation?
I think there's both. I mean, I think if you look at the legislative session, some of the bills, and we've talked about the one this week about the referendum on unions being able to negotiate for their members, right? And that was a bill that came out of the chute right off the bat. He signed it into law right away. And of course, we know now that there's it'll be on the ballot in 2026, this idea of can unions collective bargain for their membership. But that was one thing.
Public employees unions.
Public employees unions.
Right.
Sorry, yes,
exactly.
that clarification. But we also saw some flag bills, and recently he had a comment that it was kind of a dumb bill, and the whole controversy is dumb. And then, of course, the response is that, well, why didn't you veto it then if you thought it was dumb, right? So yeah, I mean, there were some things where people were like, well, you don't go far enough. No, you went too far, right? And there's always some of that.
So, Brigham, let me ask you this. You talked about Republicans, you talked about Democrats. Is there and I didn't see this in the poll, is there a number for unaffiliated or independents or others that are not affiliated with one party or the other?
Yeah, there is, and the independents also saw an increase from our April poll, bouncing up from 40% to 45% approval rating of the performance that Governor Cox has had in office. But I think that the story of the last year of Governor Cox has been an attempt to expand his Disagree Better initiative from the left to the right, where he hadn't really exercised those same kind of tactics. And so after the June primary, he told me that he reached out to some of his harshest critics on the right around the state, trying to put in play those same principles. And he's still trying to walk this fine balance, where he's definitely been a lot more vocal on things like illegal immigration in the last year. So he's definitely kind of followed the conservative talking points on that. But then on other issues, whether it's a ban of flags in public school classrooms or on government property, he didn't sign that one into law, thinking that it didn't take a consensus or collaborative approach. And then in addition to endorsing Donald Trump and kind of touting his so-called great relationship with him, he's also been talking about how he thinks the president would be more successful if he employed a Disagree Better approach. He said that at an event last month.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. So Holly, I'm surprised that he's only at 40 to 45% among independents, because to me that's how he won the election in such a large margin. You know what I mean? I guess that's
yeah.
just me.
I mean, I think in Utah,
I sound naive today.
In Utah, so independent can be. In other states, it's actually a party. In Utah, we use that word to mean unaffiliated voters. We know that they tend to vote Republican, right? So an election always comes down to making a choice for who is on the ballot at that moment. Right. It may be that he wasn't the favorite candidate, but he was better than the other candidates on the ballot, say the voters. Right. That's one of the things. But, one of the things I have to pivot back to Brigham. One of the things I thought was super interesting was that you pointed out how he has started talking more about religion. And I found that was very interesting. Can you share just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined the governor on a trade mission to Canada earlier this year, the week after Liberation Day announcements of a new tariff regime from the Trump administration. And while we were there, Governor Cox mentioned that one of his regrets from his first term was not being more vocal about what he sees as being one of the drivers of Utah's success, which is its religiosity. And he has tried to, take this kind of interfaith approach, but at the same time being very clear that he thinks that the religious activity of a place makes it more charitable, makes it more service-oriented, and also makes politics healthier, maybe less toxic. And so, recently we've seen him kind of expand, that emphasis in his administration.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Brigham.
I forgot about Canada. That had to be a boost for him. You know what I mean? Because he went when things between our country and Canada couldn't have been worse, when Trump was just at the height of his tariffs, and Cox went there. You think
we're good trading partners.
And is making friends. Yeah, good point. When we come back after the break, both chambers of Congress will be up for grabs next fall. And while the midterms may still feel a bit away, both parties are already strategizing how to topple their opponents. Stay with us.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
It's the Movie Show, guys. Andy Farnsworth and Steve Sales. We are at Sound Sleep in Sandy today, joined now by Melissa Lowry. And Melissa, we want to talk about how to correct sleep apnea without having to use the dreaded CPAP machine.
It can be dreaded, that's for sure, by a lot of people. Oral appliance therapy, which means essentially a custom-made mouth guard, is a lot easier than wearing a mask and having that hose and machine on the side of your bed. It's like a custom-made mouth guard. You just wear it on your teeth during the night. It's very portable, obviously, during the summer when you camp and travel. Incredibly comfortable because it's custom made. We do a 3D digital scan of your teeth, so it's the perfect size, perfect fit. And the good news, Andy, is it will go through your health insurance usually. And at this time of year, a lot of us are starting to meet our deductibles.
I love that. And as someone who has used both the CPAP and the oral appliance, I can 100% agree. It is so much easier and so much more convenient, and especially when you're traveling and camping, so much easier. So we've got an offer today for KSL listeners, but you got to call during the movie show. Between now and the end of the movie show at 1 o'clock, Melissa, what do you get when you call and make an appointment with Sound Sleep?
Okay, the number is 801-716-8672. You can also find us online at soundsleepmedical.com and schedule there. You'll get a free sleep screening, which is this test you get to do at home in your own bed, your own pillow, and then bring it back to us. We'll do a free sleep consultation where we sit down with you in one of our 6 offices, give you those results, and on top of that, also free today, You do the testing, you come to your appointment, we're going to throw in 2 movie tickets.
Oh, love it. All right, perfect for the movie show. So the number to call to make that appointment for the free sleep screening and free sleep consultation, 801-716-8672.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Annie's first oil change wasn't as hard as she thought because she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Is it too early to start talking about midterm elections, Holly? I mean, for you and I, political junkies that we are, you're always sort of looking ahead.
That's
And
right.
I love election season. I know we're a long ways off, but both chambers of Congress will be up for grabs next fall next fall in 2026.
That's right.
Because they're so close. The Republicans right now have fairly slim majorities in both.
Right.
And I think in the Senate they're up by like 4 or 5, in the House they're up by 8 right now. That their numbers, but the House, everything can happen there. In
Right.
the Senate, there are a number of them that are up for,
About a third.
up for grabs. Yeah. So I think it's safe, and I think it's kind of fun to talk about where those are, where they can go, and what's up for grabs as we get closer and closer to 2026.
You know what's funny is there's an entire election before we even start talking about midterms, right? So we've got municipal elections in Utah this year. We've got some not state school board, but local school districts, because Alpine School District is splitting into 3. But we have on the line with us Cami Mondo. She's a Deseret News congressional correspondent in D.C., and she writes a newsletter called On the Hill. And Cami, one of the things you said in your newsletter just made me laugh because it's so true. You said it's always campaign season in the nation's capital.
Yes, and that's definitely how it feels right now, especially, even it's a year, more than a year till November. You're starting to see kind of what could become the biggest conversation starters next year.
So, Cami, let's start with the Senate. There are 35 seats up for re-election in 2026. Republicans currently hold a 53-47 majority. What can we look forward to, both Republicans and Democrats, then? And is it likely, are we, just according to the polls or what we know so far, that number is going to change very much?
Right. And so right now what we're looking at is a lot of the seats that will be open, a lot of them won't be that competitive. 35 seats is a lot, so it kind of sounds more daunting than it really is. But there are really only about 6 that will be competitive, and 4 of those are actually held by Democrats. So Democrats are definitely going to be more on the defensive when it comes to the Senate. There are 2 toss-up seats. There's one in Georgia, one in Michigan. And so those are going to be the really most competitive, the most expensive races. They're both held by Democrats right now. But you're really going to see that Democrats are going to be way more on the defensive when it comes to the Senate.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are you seeing in the House?
So in the House, it always kind of brings up this conversation of historical trends. Whenever someone wins the White House, the next midterm elections, that party usually loses the House. And Republicans have had such a slim majority there for the last 4 years, really. And so there, it's kind of more of a toss-up because you have so many competitive races evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. So right now, it really could be too early to tell there, especially because, they are really the ones who are always in campaign season. They're up every 2 years. And so right now it's still probably way too early to tell, but I would say that Republicans have their work cut out for them just because of those historical trends. And usually whatever backlash is going toward the president or the Senate, usually people take it out on the House.
So let's talk about that, Cammie. The administration has certainly been controversial. Is the Trump factor, how does that weigh in? Do you think that what's happening in the White House is going to be good or bad for Republicans, or do you think that every state will just deal on its own accord, just like you say, Michigan and Georgia, they have close races? I'm just wondering what the Trump factor it looks like.
Right, and I think, usually when you come around to a presidential election, Trump won't be up for re-election, obviously, but you're always wondering, how much what happens in the White House will affect other races. I think the House will be the most obvious, so obviously with this big Trump, big beautiful package that's making its way through, that's going to be the biggest conversation over the next year. They're still working through it. They're still trying to pass it. But whatever is passed in there, Republicans are going to try to sell it as a win, while Democrats are going to try and sell it as a loss. And so really Trump is going to be a huge factor in this, especially when it comes to, the foreign affairs going on right now, whether with Israel and Iran or even just with, the national economy. Whatever Trump does, it really does trickle down to these other races.
So I again, it's kind of early, and I know that we won't know all the issues that are going to come out over the next 6 months before campaigns really start to gear up. But are you seeing any move towards specific messaging from either side? You mentioned Trump, right? Whether you paint it as a win or a loss. Are there other messaging things that are starting to solidify yet?
I think the biggest thing right now, especially for Democrats, they've tried to make this whole Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security their big messaging right now. So far, it hasn't really seemed to stick just because, that whole package where those cuts would be haven't been finalized. And so you're really seeing Democrats trying to grab onto whatever it is that they can. The last few months, they were able to, grab onto Elon Musk and Doge. Now Elon's kind of out of the picture, so that's not really something they can grab onto. For Republicans, it's really going to be, they're going to want to really, whatever this package passes with the tax cuts, that's probably going to be their biggest message, is that they've saved, so many families money. They've avoided huge tax cuts, but that's really going to depend on if they can even get this package through. So all of the, things that they're going to be able to campaign on are kind of still a big question, but whatever is in this reconciliation package, that's really going to be what they're going to focus on.
Cammie, Democrats are coming off a general election where messaging was a huge problem. Is there talk in D.C. that messaging is still a problem for Democrats, that they still are not clear on I mean, you talk about some social issues like Medicare, Medicaid, that type of thing, Social Security, but are they still lacking in messaging according to what you're hearing up on the Hill?
It really does seem that they are lacking not only just a central message, but even a central leader. They don't really have any one person that they can look to. And I think that, aside from this reconciliation package, if you're looking at, just the Israel-Iran conflict right now, that's even something that they can't seem to agree on one message. A lot of Democrats are saying, let's stay out of it. Meanwhile, you have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying, we support Israel doing whatever they need to do. And so it's something like that's also causing some strife between the party. They're kind of disagreeing with each other on that. And so it doesn't really seem like they have a central message. They don't have a central identity, and that's something they're really going to want to fix before they enter this next year.
Thank you for joining us, Cammie. We've been talking with Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent.
Yeah, and she had to get off the air a little bit early, but yeah, that's interesting. I thought, I guess maybe I was, coming from a more Democratic-leaning background, that the Democrats were really looking strong in 2 years because of perception of Trump. But I think the public perception of him isn't as bad as some individual perceptions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I would have thought some of what's happening with immigration and whatnot would hurt him.
Well,
but
it is. There
is.
are polling numbers that are showing that it is starting to hurt him.
But it was also his message. I mean, it was
Right.
what he said. I mean,
Right.
what he was going to do.
So you and I have both worked on campaigns, our own and others probably. But
Yes.
One of the things with messaging is it's not what you, the candidate, think is most important. It's what the voters think is important, right? And if you could be talking about Medicaid cuts and that's really important to you, but if your voters don't care, it's not going to translate into a win.
Right. And what I think translated to a win for the Republicans was the border, was immigration, and they've been
Doge,
strong about
really,
it.
right? And it didn't turn out quite how people thought, but
and Democrats have to be able to have a message on those issues, because when you say, okay, under Biden there were whatever number of people crossing the border every day, with Trump it's exponentially smaller.
Right.
What are the Democrats going to do to keep those numbers small? They have to if they want to win, because that's what the public wants. Whether you want to say otherwise or not, you can't avoid that.
all elections are local too. We've talked about that before. So some of the messaging may not be the same if they're, in the swing state where they think, like in Georgia, that Democratic Senate seat might go Republican. That might be different messaging than seats that are considered safe, right? So we'll have all 4 congressional representatives up in the state of Utah. Democrats will run a candidate, but I don't think it's that likely. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not likely that the Democrats will be able to pull off a win in a congressional seat in Utah in a year and a half.
Oh no, I don't think there's much likelihood of that at all. We don't have a Senate race in 2 years because we just had Curtis and we had Lee.
Right, Lee's
2 years
not
ago.
until
So
2028.
yeah, but no, I mean, I think, whether you like it or not, the 4 congressional representatives right now that we have in Utah are staying out of the fray.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything
Yeah.
controversial, and they're probably going to be strong opponents.
Well, look, we're actually speaking of immigration. Today is World Refugee Day, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Amy Harmer, who's the executive director of Utah Refugee Connection. Stay tuned.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Verl Johansson. KSL's top local story this hour: the Forsyth home in Washington County. The Forsyth fire in Washington County in southern Utah has now burned over around 1,000 acres, and over 400 homes are still evacuated. The homes are a mixture of full-time homes and vacation houses. So far, none of the buildings have been destroyed. Utah had a rebound in job growth in May.
There was a short period where things had kind of slowed down a little bit, but for May, the report shows that the job growth increased by 2.5% and unemployment remained low at that 3.2%.
Department of Workforce Services spokesperson Jared Mendenhall joined Utah's Morning News. He says education, health services, construction, and manufacturing saw the largest growth. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: AAA just released their holiday travel projections for the 4th of July.
AAA predicting an all-time record number of people, over 72 million, venturing at least 50 miles from home, with a record 5.84 million flying to their destination. That's up almost 1.5% from the same period last year.
ABC's Will Reeve reporting. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 84 points, the S&P down 7, the NASDAQ down 78. And coming up, hot and windy today, cooler but windy tomorrow. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
It's the movie show, guys. Andy Farnsworth and Steve Sales movie show coming up in about 30 minutes. But I got to ask a question right now. How did you sleep last night? Why do I ask that? Well, that's because we're at Sound Sleep today, and we're joined by Melissa Lowry. And, Melissa, that's an important question, because how you sleep and the type of sleep you're getting has a major impact on your health that I don't think a lot of people realize.
It's true. There are all sorts of health consequences related to untreated sleep apnea. And what that means is, if you have apnea and you're not doing anything about it, you're likely risking things like anxiety, depression, memory loss, high blood pressure, high blood glucose levels, even more serious stuff down the line like dementia and stroke. And so if you're not sleeping well, Let's do a sleep screening. It's a test you get to do at home in your own bed, and let's find out. And if you've got a problem, we can fix it in a really easy way.
We've got a cool offer that SoundSleep has for our movie show listeners today. If you call 801-716-8672 and make an appointment at one of the 6 locations that SoundSleep has in Utah, you can come in, get that free sleep screening that Melissa was talking about, the free sleep consultation, and then, Melissa, if you show up and do that appointment, you're going to give them something else for free.
That's right. Do these other free things, and you get 2 free movie tickets, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun shows this summer to see.
Yeah, and if you fix your sleep apnea, you won't fall asleep during the movie that you're using your tickets on.
That's true. And you know, you can think of a sleep screening kind of like any of the other health screenings that we might do. Colonoscopies, mammograms, things like that. We're just trying to make sure there's not a problem. If you've never done a sleep screening, you're 40 and over, then you're behind. Let's at least get it done and find out if there isn't a problem.
And remember, you'll be doing it in your own bed. That's a really important point for people who may be like, oh, I don't want to sleep somewhere else. You'll do it in your own bed. So make that appointment right now with Sound Sleep. 801-716-8672. Get that free sleep screening, free sleep consultation, and as soon as they're done, they'll give you 2 free movie tickets.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
We've got emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Tito Nani.
We got some serious delays right now on southbound I-15 due to what UDOT is describing as road damage. This occurred just before 106 South. This has blocked off the left 2 lanes of traffic. It appears traffic is all the way back up towards the south interchange. If you can plan to take an alternate route, as I would do so, as this issue appears it could take well over an hour to fix. Other than that, northbound I-15, I-215, and I-80 in all directions looks to be in great shape at the moment. UDOT construction alert. Plan ahead as northbound I-15 will be closed in Davis County Saturday night through 11 a.m. Sunday between 200 North and Park Lane as crews demolish the old Shepherd Lane Bridge. In the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
Well, today's looking like another windy day with a high of 95 degrees. Tomorrow's high drops to 77 before falling again to 72 on Sunday. Right now, 88 degrees and sunny skies in Salt Lake City. I'm Burl Johansson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Greg, today is World Refugee Day, and this is a day that is being observed around the world, as you might expect. And I have to tell you some of the numbers. So there's some specific definitions, and we start with displaced people. And what that means is people who've been forced out of their homes, usually by civil unrest, sometimes by civil war, sometimes by other kinds of political persecution. There are 123.2 million people who have been displaced. That's 1 in every 67 people in the world.
Oh, my word. Yeah, and I was wondering sort of how some definitional words.
Yeah.
What constitutes a refugee?
Right. So refugee is a specific definition. There's 42.7 million refugees in the world, and those are people who have crossed an international border to find safety in a different country. And one of the things I think that people tend to I think mistakenly think is that the United States is overwhelmed with refugees. We're not even close to being the number 1 country receiving refugees. Do you want to take a guess who that is in the world right now?
I would have have bet anything it was the United States.
I know. We're number 20. We're not even close to the top. It's Iran, if you can believe it. Iran and Turkey and Germany are the top countries in the world receiving refugees. The United States, and this is before Trump took office. This is before the Trump ban came into effect. But we were number 20 in receiving refugees.
I wonder what refugee group would be going into countries like Iran and Turkey. I mean, I'm sure it's obvious if you look geographically.
Geographically, it's the people close by. So in Turkey, a lot of them are Syrian.
Right.
And you know, one of the things this year after the Syrian regime fell, they went back, which is one of the things that really sets refugees apart from a lot of other migrant or immigrant communities is they want to go back. They just can't, right? If they go back, they might be killed.
So the politics changes and maybe the refugees
and maybe
go back
they can,
home.
right?
Interesting.
But Utah has always been welcoming. In fact, Utah, if you remember back in 1847, the people coming here were religious refugees, right?
Sure.
Coming to settle in the Mountain West. And I have worked with Amy Hermer, who's on the line with us, for a number of years. So full disclosure, we're friends. I love her dearly. And Amy is the executive director of the Utah Refugee Connection, here to talk to us about refugees in general, but also about a celebration going on tonight. Welcome, Amy.
Hello, how are you?
So good. So happy to talk to you. Can you tell us a little bit about Utah's refugee community and specifically what's going on tonight?
We have an amazing community, both the general community of welcomers and also the refugee community. I've been involved in this space for about 10 years, and I can say my life is so much better due to the amazing things that I've learned from my refugee friends and the ways I've seen Utahns step up to make a difference in their lives. It's really amazing.
Amy, are we seeing a change in the refugee community? In other words, are groups coming in now that maybe we didn't see 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, right now, the president decides how many refugees are being allowed in, and currently we have not had any refugees coming in since January, except for those from South Africa. And so, to me, it's a little heartbreaking because I know the experiences that some of my refugees friends have had in their countries of origin and in refugee camps. And, you know, we have a beautiful state, we have beautiful opportunities, and to see the loss of human potential of those individuals that are stuck in places of conflict and in refugee camps is really heartbreaking. So I can't wait until we see the door opened a little more to our refugee friends around the world. Like Holly said, you know, we've seen the door shut for a little while, but the response I've seen from the general community is, what can we do to help those that are already here? We had a lot of Ukrainians and Afghans come in the last few years, and we want them to know we appreciate having them here. We want them to be part of our community, and we want them to feel safe and build lives much like our own.
I think one of the things that's important for people to know is refugee status is a legal status. They are here legally. Coming to the United States is a multi-month, usually multi-year process to get here. And there's at least 8 different government agencies that refugees who end up in the United States have to go through, right? It's really a lengthy process, and people are here legally, and that's important for people to know.
Yeah, I think given some of the current political climate, you know, on a daily basis, I have people say to me, so how many of the refugees that you help are here legally? And what that says to me is, hey, tell me what you know about refugees, because when they ask that question, it kind of implies that they don't understand that refugees have a legal status to be here. They're expected to work right away. They receive some support, but over time they're expected to be self-sufficient. And I think I've tried to lean in to educate and advocate and try not to agitate. And, you know, it is hard to watch people that you know and love be bundled into a group and people kind of dismiss their humanity when they've already been through so much. So I've just tried to lean in a little bit, and I love, Holly, that you said, you know, they're here legally. They've gone through all the background checks and the process to be here. They've been through unfathomable situations, and if we can help create a safe and happy home here in the state of Utah, that's my hopeful dream for them, is that they can just live lives similar to ours.
So, Amy, tell our listeners about your group's event tonight and what's going on.
Well, so World Refugee Day is celebrated throughout the world, and I call it a celebration, but it's also an acknowledgement that war and conflict causes very difficult situations around the world that force families and kids and women to flee places of conflict. And I think it's a way to remember the importance of peace and talking through decision-making with one another that doesn't escalate into war, but also celebrating the diversity of culture. I don't really like the idea of a melting pot. I like the idea of a mosaic, in that everyone's bringing a little piece of their culture and their identity and the best things about where they come from, and melting, or not melting it into a pot, but displaying it in a huge, beautiful mosaic picture. And this World Refugee Celebration is a mammoth undertaking for a lot of groups. The Refugee Service Office with the state is kind of the main person, and Venture Out Mill Creek. It's being held at Big Cottonwood Regional Park, and it's from 4 until 11 today. And there will be food vendors, free activities for kids. There will be performances. There will be a round-the-world market. And even cooler, at dusk, they will actually have the movie Moana 2, where the general community and the refugee community can come together and watch a movie together, which I think is really cool. Just the best thing you can be to a refugee is a friend and an advocate, and this is a perfect place to make some new friends and come together to experience something beautiful together.
Thanks for joining us, Amy. I will see you there tonight.
Well, we always love talking to you, Holly, and it's a pleasure to be here. And anytime I can share love and information about my refugee friends, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
We'll see you tonight.
Sounds fun. And when we come back after the break, we're going to check in on the KSL movie show, and Holly shares her fun facts of the day.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain, and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
It's the movie show, guys. Andy Farnsworth and Steve Sales broadcasting live today from Sound Sleep in Sandy. But they have 6 locations in Utah. In addition to Sandy, they're also in Clearfield, Murray, American Fork, Provo, and St. George. And what we're telling you about today is a different way to help treat sleep apnea. And that's without having to use a mask that blows air into your face all night. Melissa, what have you got instead?
It's an oral appliance, Andy. It's just like a custom-made mouth guard. Super easy to use. If you've ever slept with retainers or bleach trays, it's very similar to that. So
Only better than the retainers, trust me.
Yes, we're not trying to shift your teeth, that's for sure. But it's very comfortable. You just wear it in your mouth at night, and what it will do is stabilize your airway to keep your oxygen levels up. Snoring goes away. You feel better when you wake up, and the great news is you'll be healthier down the road.
Let's explain really quick what sleep apnea is for people who maybe are not familiar with that term.
Okay. Apnea is a condition during the night where you either stop breathing or you have a restricted airway, and it can lower your oxygen levels below 90%, which is not a place you want to be. And if that happens, not only will you wake up tired in the morning, you're risking all sorts of health issues now, but also down the road.
So here's how we can help you find out if you're even dealing with sleep apnea. you can get a free sleep test and a free sleep consultation from our friends here at Sound Sleep. Melissa, if they call 801-716-8672 and schedule that appointment, what's going to happen?
Okay. Call the number. You can also find us at soundsleepmedical.com and schedule an appointment there.
Oh, that's cool.
And when you do that, you will get a free sleep screening, which is this test you get to do at home in your own bed, a free sleep consultation, which means sit down with one of our sleep specialists. We'll give you those results, absolutely free, no obligation. And then just for showing up, doing the free stuff, essentially, we're going to throw in 2 free movie tickets.
You're going to give free movie tickets for doing some free things. That sounds like the perfect match for the movie show. Movie tickets and free. We love all of those words. 801-716-8672. Find out if you have sleep apnea, and then talk with Sound Sleep about how you can treat it without using a CPAP. 801-716-8672.
Boo-hoo-hoo.
Jason, why are you crying?
I just saw a house with a "We Got New Windows" sign in their yard.
Well, why does that make you cry?
Because they spent twice as much as they needed to for high-quality windows.
Window World offers amazing windows for way less than the other guys.
And we don't play pricing games with phony discounts.
At Window World, we treat every customer like family.
Call Window World today at 281-8111 for a no-pressure, no-hassle quote.
Window World, simply the best. And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney. Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The new Inside Sources.
One thing I've enjoyed, Holly, working with you is that every day we end with your fun fact of the day. But I have to admit that today's sounds kind of gross. Flush Fest in Provo.
Yeah, that's a fun fact for the weekend, right? But earlier this week, we had Provo Mayor Michelle Kafusi on, and it was actually amusing. I found it amusing. She talked about having a toilet paper cutting instead of
I deemed myself the sewer mayor at my first inaugural speech because our infrastructure, which is the ugly, expensive stuff in the ground, had a massive issue and it needed to be addressed. And we have worked tirelessly and so excited for our Flush Fest on June 21st to cut our toilet paper for our brand new water reclamation center.
So it was funny then, it's funny today, right? So they have a whole thing. Like you can go get stamps and go to different stations at the Flush Fest in Provo tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. So it's tomorrow. It's the 21st.
Yep.
And their toilet paper cutting ceremony
Instead of
as
a
well.
ribbon.
Right,
Yep.
there you go. Good for her. She was a lot of fun. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we also said it was World Refugee Day, but it's also summer solstice today, which means it is the longest day of the year, and we're going to start seeing less and less sunshine.
Yeah. Well, it's been a hot week. Long days are fun. I like it when it gets longer and longer. Although this showtime, we get here so early in the morning that I find myself going to bed at night, and it's hard to go to bed when it's still light outside. So it's really hard.
Yeah. It's also National Flip Flop Day and National Take Your Dog to Work Day, which we should have done but did not do.
And thank goodness. But take your dog to work in your flip flop days.
There you go.
You could get away with anything. It's also the day we talk about the movie show, and our movie show hosts Andy Farnsworth and Steve Sales are with us. And I don't know, we talked earlier about the movies that we're talking about here, the movie of the week. And Andy, tell us where we're going this week.
Well, so it's a movie called Elio, and it's from Disney and Pixar. Now, there was a stretch where Disney and Pixar were producing movies separate, and I think they still technically do, but they've come back together, and it's all under one house. And so this is a brand new story. This isn't the fourth. It's not like they've already unveiled some footage to Disney shareholders of Toy Story 5, so they're still doing sequels. But this is a brand new start. And it's kind of a cute story, Steve.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. It's just that Disney, will you stop killing off the parents? What is wrong with these people? And okay, we have to make this kid sad so that he'll be so sad that he wants to go live on another planet with aliens because he can't get along with people?
Yeah, so the story, basically a young kid, an orphan, obviously, he wants to leave Earth. He becomes fascinated with the idea of extraterrestrial life when he wanders into an exhibit about the Voyager spacecraft and how it's broadcasting.
Voiced by, did you hear who? It was Captain Janeway.
Oh, yeah, I saw Kate Mulgrew in the credits.
Wow, that's cool.
So, but he gets fascinated by this, but now he becomes obsessed with it. And so he lays on the beach for the entire day, and he's written in the sand, "Please abduct me," with arrows pointing to himself. And he hopes that the aliens will do it. And then by a chance encounter, he has the opportunity, since fortunately for Elio, his aunt that he lives with just happens to work at the military base that's concentrated on talking to the stars. Yeah. And so he gets a chance to actually respond to a message, and then the aliens do come and take him.
Yeah, especially his message said, "Hey, I'm here. Please come get me. I love you."
And then that's what they think the Earth greeting is. So the fun comes when they come and pick up Elio. They think he is the leader of Earth because, of course, only the leader of Earth would respond. And he doesn't do anything to dissuade them of that fact, since he kind of wants to stay with them. So then the rest of it is, what else is going to happen? He meets an alien slug that's really cute voice.
He has no eyes, but he's still adorable.
Yeah. And so it's basically a boy trying to figure out where does he belong, and, is he going to stay in space? Is he going to go back to Earth?
This is an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah. And so I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's one of Pixar's best, but it certainly was enjoyable to watch.
Well, it has everything that Pixar usually brings you. Sweetness, fun, energy, and it's all here.
Yeah. So we're going to get going a little bit more depth and talk about some specific things during the movie show. But, yeah, it's something that's worth watching, we both think.
Yeah.
So our movie show question of the week, and you got a lot to choose from. What is your favorite Pixar movie? Because I think everybody has a favorite. Now, this doesn't have to say what's the best one, although I bet the best and your favorite
got to be the
line
same.
up together.
Right.
But what is your favorite Pixar movie?
So I have to start. First of all, I had to figure out what a Pixar movie was, because I was thinking when I go see the grandkids, they're always watching these certain movies. And so I thought, Moana, that seems like a Pixar. But I'm told that's a Disney movie, so I can't use that one.
Yes.
But then you guys sort of corrected me again and say, well, they're Disney and Pixar are sort of the same. But here's my favorite Pixar movie.
Remind me how I know you? They're your family. We have to get you back home.
Coco. The grandkids love it. I like to watch it every time I'm at their house. I watch Coco. It's the cutest movie, and there's a lot of incredible graphics. I mean, Pixar, Disney, they do some amazing things.
That has such a good movie, too, about family. I really liked that one. That's a good choice.
Well, actually, one of the directors of this movie did Coco. So
there you go, Greg.
Go.
Okay, there we go.
That's a staple in our family, too. But I would say I have two favorites. One is this one.
Does not place her weapons on the table.
Mom.
She just doesn't listen.
Pretend I'm Merida. Speak to me. I don't want to get married. I want to stay single and let my hair flow in the wind as I ride through the glen, firing arrows into the sunset.
Okay, I don't know that one.
I love Brave. That's
Brave.
Merida, the
Brave.
Scottish.
There you go.
She doesn't want to set up. Yeah.
Right.
That's not one that people immediately list. So I love that that's one that you love.
And then my second favorite though is the one that probably is most people know.
You're my favorite deputy.
You got a friend in me.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta love the music at the
Are you
very
talking the original one? Because there's been 4 so far. With the 5th on the way.
I love them all, and there's one line with the "I packed your angry eyes." I love that one.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. The one time you could get Don Rickles in a kids movie and have it not be shocking.
Okay, I
all right,
ask Andy, your pick.
Well, I have several, so I'll tell you one right now. I'll save my 2 favorite, but the one that I really surprised how much I loved was Inside Out, and it was because what really spoke to me in that was personality islands.
Yeah.
Where Riley had these different parts that made up her personality, and so I left that thinking, what are my personality islands? And one of them was family. One of them was
anger.
No, not emotions, but the island. And one of them was Star Wars. And, you know, so but I thought that was really fun and I was like, sports, Star Wars. Yeah, what are my personality islands? I thought that was just so imaginative, and it was such a great movie that everybody felt different things about, but everybody loved it for different reasons.
Yeah.
Well, mine also would be Inside Out, but I'm going to go with Up. Up.
See, that was
a
what
movie.
I was saving for next time.
Well, since you stole Inside Out, I figured I'd return the favor. Up, that montage where he's going back and reminiscing about his wife, that is the most amazing 10 minutes ever.
10 minutes, no dialogue, everyone crying.
Everybody
That's
cries.
master storytelling.
I'm staying away from that one. I'm staying away from
Oh,
that
no,
one.
Greg, you've got to experience
Okay,
it.
all right.
Get in there.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll enjoy listening to the movie show today, and when you guys get started with that, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to try to get the grandkids to get Elio, get them to get that one on there.
Well, you got to at least let it play out in the theaters, right?
Yeah,
this
there we
weekend.
go.
Yep.
All right, we're going to leave you guys with this, and then we're going to hope that we're going to listen to you in about a few minutes.
When somebody loved me, everything was beautiful. Every hour spent together lives within my heart. And when she was sad,
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour. Hundreds of people in southern Utah's Pine Valley area had to leave their homes behind after a new wildfire grew hundreds of acres less than a mile from their community. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson has more.
Officials say the Forsyth fire is burning between 500 and 1,000 acres in northern Washington County. That's 10 to 20 times more land than when it started yesterday. Carl Hunt with Utah Forestry Fire and State Land says there are about 400 buildings in the area, but none of them have been damaged. Officials estimate between 400 and 500 people have been evacuated.
Officials say the evacuation order remains in effect with more than 100 firefighters battling that fire. Most of the state remains under a red flag warning today.
The National Weather Service says most of the state is still going to see strong wind gusts today, as high as 40 to maybe even 50 miles per hour.